the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, and somebody said recently, we are definitely a country looking at connectivity, looking at data and access. We are probably the number 6 country on the continent that is very much positioned to take advantage of access to the market through the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. And then, of course, advanced infrastructure. According to a survey, Namibia has got the best roads in Africa. I think, like Catherine says, if you don't believe me, come and test the roads out. You can come and taste the meat, you can come and taste the road. There is a good coast to visit there. There is a tosha and sausage flay for you to visit in Namibia. Please don't take your word for it. You are welcome, and our Vice President has already welcomed you. So those are the reasons, and then I actually have got almost my second to last slide that gives 16 reasons to invest in Namibia. And I have tried to cut those reasons. I said, okay, Nangula, give 2. I tried. I got them from 100 to 50, then to 32. I ended up 16. So I could fit 16 on a slide. So I thought, okay, let me leave the 16 because they can fit on slide. So political stability, protection for human rights, liberty, rule of law, financial certifications, advanced infrastructure, accessible workforce that are educated, quality of life. Namibia is a beautiful country, and if you talk about traffic, you do not experience it in Namibia. Good air in Namibia, so you will be able to attract good employees from all over the world. Establish FDI destination, logistic hub because of our positioning, natural resources, market access, investor protection. You can own 100% of your company. As the Vice President has told you, you can repatriate your funds with no issues. The currency is convertible, and there is dispute protection. That is just few of the reasons why to join us in Namibia. And if this message has appealed to you, the Vice President says he has introduced the team. We are here to listen to your question. Just outside the plenary hall on your left-hand side, Namibia has got a booth there. Please speak to our team and let us see especially how the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board can welcome you to Namibia, and make sure that we facilitate your duty by connecting you to all our colleagues in the public sector. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wanja. I think we are still doing well with time. And without further ado, I would like us to now move into the next slot on our program. We are going to have a panel discussion. And for that, I would like to welcome our moderator for this panel discussion, Zoe Nambahu. She's our colleague from NemPower, and she will also introduce her panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies, Your Excellencies present here today, Honorable Ministers. I have the distinct honor to moderate this panel discussion, the topic being Namibia, an attractive investment destination. I would like to call the panelists up, and I will do a brief introduction of the panelists. We have the CEO, Mr. Conrad Dempsey, of R&B, present here today. Please come up. I will do your bio just in a short while. Mr. Ferdinand Giola, and then I would just like to establish, have we set up the link for Mr. Francois to join virtually? If we can just give a few moments. In the meantime, I will just do a brief introduction of Mr. Conrad Dempsey. He serves as the CEO and Executive Director of First Rand Namibia, a position he has held since October 2020. Prior to this role, he steered R&B Namibia as CEO. Together with extensive experience in the financial resources sector, He has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the natural resource sector, mainly through work in corporate mergers and acquisitions and strategy. His experience in natural resources gained from all over the world is further supported by good local exposure. He has also successfully led local market-leading businesses. He is a qualified chartered accountant, global chartered management accountant, fellow at the Corporate Treasuries Association, and holds a Master of Philosophy in Future Studies. He is a conservation enthusiast with an appreciation for Namibia, her landscapes, and her people. Next, we have Mr. Ferdinand Giowa, who is amongst Namibia's tested business leaders in infrastructure and property development, infrastructure finance, and the energy sector through project financing. He's the co-founder of a private equity firm, Ino Harith Capital in Namibia, that focuses on infrastructure investments. He's a civil engineer who has worked in engineering consulting firms, construction, property development, infrastructure financing, and energy projects for over 20 years. He obtained his engineering degree and also has a postgraduate in development finance at Stellenbosch University in South Africa. He serves as a director on various institutions such as the Public Enterprise Namibia Airports Company. His strong leadership, entrepreneur quality, business development ability, as well as technical knowledge serves amongst one of his greatest assets, propelling Inno Group and the boards on which he serves to greater heights. Mr. Giowa believes that the road to success is always under construction, and that motivated his participation in trying to shape and grow the energy sector in Namibia, as well as private equity sector in Africa. Last, we have Mr. Francois van Schalkwyk, who will be joining us virtually. He is the Executive Director, Investment and Sector Development at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, an agency in the Office of the President of the Republic of Namibia. He was appointed in this role in April 2021. Francois previously served as CEO and partner at Hallbrook Advisors, a specialist management consulting, corporate and mergers and acquisitions advisory firm in London. With nearly 20 years' experience in the consulting and advisory industry, he has successfully delivered numerous strategy and commercial projects. He's an established innovator and corporate development finance specialist and has been building and working with multidisciplinary and remote teams globally since 2005. I'm not sure if he is able to join us.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
But I think we can start. I think I can start with Conrad and Mr. Guola. So in keeping with the theme of this summit, enhancing Africa's value in global value chains, and also taking from what our Excellency Deputy President said with regards to diversification and the impact that it does in job creation, I will start with value addition in mining. This is a question to you, Mr. Dempsey. From your perspective, how can value addition in secondary industries be enabled in Namibia, and what would the impact be?
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. You know, I think this is one of those topics that it's a global debate. All countries around the world grapple with getting more value addition done locally. And recently when we had some debates around the Continental Free Trade Agreement, you know, under the topic of realizing the African economic dream, this topic came up more and more. I think one of the things we've learned with local value addition, particularly in resources and mining, is that miners are not necessarily very good value adders. It's like saying all farmers must be good butchers. So getting value addition going often does require a parallel industry. And I think where we've managed to do that in Namibia, we've had great success. And the reality is that in the end, we need to produce something competitively, that it can land globally competitive wherever the end consumers sit. Now, whenever we get into these debates, you know, it's very easy to get stuck on the challenges in it. But it's good because it is hard. But the reality is just being a little bit more deliberate about it can have fantastic outcomes. Yes, not everything can be locally value added, but we certainly believe there's a lot of upside potential. And we've seen it in our own business, that where we were deliberate to bring something back on shore, do it locally, the multiplier benefit is really great, and you start to create a fantastic talent set. And that then starts to talk to a broader investment theme that comes up. So for us, the spiraling benefit is not just creating that value addition, it's creating an entire industry with spiraling effects around it.
Mr. Giola, you are what we know is one of the pioneers of previously disadvantaged Namibians in the energy sector, with the ESI government setting targets for local participation in the energy sector. And speaking to that, what has been your perspective for local entrepreneurs in terms of value addition? Is there an inherent conflict that you see? And just speak to us of your experience in terms of being a shareholder in solar projects in Namibia as well, and that joint collaboration you have done with foreign investors.
Thank you very much. Zoe, I think the fact is that definitely they need to be a more deliberate and cohesive understanding between all parties, including the policymakers. So, for example, in the experience that we had, there was a deliberate indication by state through ECB that 30% should be locally owned, and if one had gone further beyond that and said, okay, not only that the shareholding should be 30% locally owned, even the value addition of that should be locally owned, then I think there would have easily been a meeting of minds between the international players and the locals. But once it is left open-ended, it becomes a bit difficult. I think, like my colleague, Mr. Conrad Dempsey, said, the miners are not the best sort of value adders. And similarly to producers, I mean, a developer that we worked with, their interest is really to produce as much capacity or energy as possible, and then and basically get a return. So the moment you bring other elements, it requires, I think, more deliberate and cohesiveness between the parties. So our experience, we realized that it created quite a big industry. I mean, the energy sector at that time, especially the renewable space, was not owned by locals. But we've seen now local EPCs that have established. We've seen local consulting firms that have popped up. We've seen a lot of advisory capacity in structuring some of these deals that has popped up because of this. It's now a sector that's easily 3 to 4 billion Namibian dollars. So it does add a lot of value to try and bring local capacity.
Thank you. This ties into my next question to Francois. What role do you believe government should play to incentivize processing within Namibia, or value addition and secondary industries within Namibia?
Good afternoon, Zoe. Good afternoon, colleagues. Yes, Zoe, thank you. I think when we look at value addition as a strategy,
Francois,
it's a very important intervention. And I think, like our colleagues said, that actually extraction and value addition clearly is not two businesses that are necessarily or two industries or sectors that's in the same business. I think from our perspective, and to echo what the Vice President said earlier, we as a country, we really committed and rooted to the fact that domestic and foreign investment is inextricably important for us, and so we do work with, of course, investors to give them that comfort. But so maybe to answer your question directly, and I think this is perhaps the more tricky part of it. I think when you look at decentralization, of course, there's a number of or various ways you can look at it. Of course, there's fiscal decentralization, which as a policy we're not driving at the moment, but that's not necessarily something that might not change in the future. But at the same time, when we compare ourselves to our competitor countries around us, there's a great deal of uncertainty and instability in many of these markets where really important primary materials come from. And Namibia is really that safe haven, both financially, politically, but also, of course, from a rule of law point of view, that really protects investors and their investments. So I think so the strategy at this stage is really to create that very positive operating environment for investors to work in. Of course, a lot of effort is going into that to streamline processes to make it even easier, like Will said earlier, for investors to come on shore, develop their projects, and of course, if there is value addition to be had, for us then to potentially work with that investor to identify other developers to do that. I think perhaps one area where we kind of fell short before was not necessarily from an investment promotion point of view, really targeting value addition companies or the value addition sector or value chain in particular. And that has changed, and I think so in the work the NIPDB and our colleagues at MIT has been doing over the past 2 years, that has been really one of the efforts we've been making is actually to work with value addition organizational value addition companies and developers of projects like that. Even this morning we've had an engagement with a number of these companies really in regards to projects that they're considering for Namibia. And it's a question of how we work together within government and speak and act as one government, but also at the same time work with our partners in the Namibian private sector to bring these companies on board and to create that safe haven to operate in.
Thank you for that, Francois. So I think the message is that Namibia is a politically stable environment, and that's a safe haven for investments. Next, leading to the presentation that Madam Uwanja made into the current opportunities within the Namibian economy, particularly relating to infrastructure development. Conrad, can you speak to the opportunities for funding in the infrastructure space in Namibia?
Yeah, I think there's a plethora of opportunity. I'm not going to repeat all the projects that she mentioned, but there's definitely a lot happening at the moment. And one often gets so stuck on the infrastructure side, but if you look at the host of opportunities that was listed, there's a couple of really exciting things that excite us even more than infrastructure. I'm not going to come back to infrastructure now. But if you just look at the graduate endowment that we have in Namibia, we have an excess of graduates at the moment, which is it's a problem on the one side with unemployment. But on the other side, there's so many countries in this development phase who have a shortage of graduates, and we think for us there's a massive growth opportunity in that we see in the market. And then earlier we spoke about how Namibia is such a wonderful place to come and live and work with our graduates. Honourable Ipumbu spoke about the land of milk and honey, and then His Excellency spoke about the harshest desert. Now somewhere in the middle is this wonderful place that we call Namibia, and I think with that, you combine this development pipeline, you combine this infrastructure pipeline, you take the endowment of qualified graduates we have, and the combination creates a great flourishing business environment. When you look at infrastructure, we created a fund about 3 years ago, an infrastructure fund, and we work with the likes of New Harith as well, to crowd in local and international capital. So when you look at these opportunities in Namibia, it's actually quite easy to invest into it. The capital markets are developed. You don't have to go and know everybody on the ground and try and figure out where's an opportunity. It's an easily investable, accessible economy. And then you combine that with some of the current legislation coming through And yes, everybody always wished that everything in policy and all of it happened 10 years ago, but the current direction, combined with what I just mentioned, it's a lot to be excited about over the next decade. If you look at Namibia with a pure investor lens.
Leading to the next question, Madam Mwanja also spoke about green hydrogen, and one of the reasons why the production of green hydrogen is seen as, Namibia is seen as an ideal spot for it, is because of our infrastructure, our wind, solar resources, but also our access, the port has access to markets, and that's why we are seeing investors from other shores coming to Namibia to tap into this for the green transition. So my next question to you, Francois, is what opportunities does Namibia present for interregional and global trade, particularly relating to our infrastructure?
So I think there are a couple of things we need to emphasize at this point. Government continues and remains committed to infrastructure development, in particular in the logistics space. So, and I'm sure plenty of rumors around, but I think the recent announcement around the commitment to road building and road upgrading, that is there. We also saw in the media the commitment to also look at our grid upgrade and upgrading the Namibian grid, and also interconnecting with the regional Southern African power pool. And of course, we were saying from the start, really, when you look at the port of Walvis Bay, that let's give the container terminal that's been completed in 2019, let's give it a chance to kind of make up the volumes, and we'll look at further expansion. Then, of course, there are other opportunities that will come down the line as well. But of course, I think the bulk of these things, and like you say, those are really enabling elements to not only trade, but also to the fact that Namibia is uniquely positioned as a processing center or as a processing hub. We, of course, also as an exit point from Africa, or this particular sub-region, and then exporting to European and US markets in particular, we're primarily positioned. And we see that, and we continue to see that trend. And when you speak to our colleagues at Walvis Bay Corridor Group, they'll emphasize the fact that port volumes are picking up. Of course, during COVID, there's been a number of issues. The fact that from an efficiency point of view, Walvis Bay is doing particularly well as a port. That's not something to overlook. But I think it really stems back, and I'm sorry to go back to that point, is that Namibia is a safe haven. You don't hear trucks moving from a mine to another port or to the port of Walvis Bay, and then it just disappears, which is something that happens quite often. Truck, payload, driver, all gone. And I think that's actually something that, I wouldn't say it's never happened, that might be a lie, but I think the fact is it's not something that you come across in Namibia quite often. And so when you look at it from the point of view of, yes, infrastructure is important, but the accessibility or increasing accessibility to green energy, and of course facilitated by upgraded grids and a number of other infrastructure points. The fact is that to bring mining primary materials to Namibia, process them here before export, makes actually sense, not only for our neighbors who suffer often similar challenges, but don't have the benefits of access to a direct port. We do believe, as a friendly country, and of course, like we said, with all of the political stability and the bells and whistles that comes with that, we're primarily positioned to serve our neighbors, not only as being a mining country ourselves, but also serving those countries and of course helping them to get their product and production out of off the continent. But I think we should anticipate that like also you said in your introduction earlier, in terms of value chains, that kind of Namibia playing a role in, yes, mining, of course, like I mentioned, but in particular the food sector or the agricultural sector, and how we believe that from an infrastructure point of view, and when we look at the various opportunities, yes, like I said, upgrading our roads, we're looking at rail, but also at the same time, potentially looking at our capacity to airlift produce from Namibia to other markets. You know, these things are being considered by government at the moment. Of course, they're not easy decisions to make, but at the same time, as we continue to build production and support investors to build production, and maybe I should emphasize in particular when we look at agri-based projects, they're predominantly domestic investors, and I think you know, those are really the highlights that we should be focusing on from a economic growth perspective. Those are the sectors that are, you know, those three sectors, energy, mining, and agri, that will be creating the jobs of the near future.
Thank you, Francois. I'd like to hone into the energy sector a little bit. Our government has been one of the forerunners in terms of governments in the African continent to introduce competition in the electricity supply industry with the modified market model, which is currently in stage 1B. What we know is our large power users can actually buy from independent power producers. The market model also allows for export of power by IPPs. So I'd like to speak to the opportunities that this presents, particularly to developers that want to come and play in this space. So I think that question is to you, Ferdinand.
Right. Thank you, Zoe. I think we're quite clear about the intention of government. I mean, to open up the market to private players. It shows already that they want to create opportunities for locals and international players. So if you look at the opportunities that are available, it's not only to developers or lenders. These opportunities are basically across board. As I indicated earlier on, I remember it was, I think, about 8 years ago when the refit started. We only had about 2 or 3 EPCs in the country that could only do maybe half a megawatt. As we speak now, they're all capable of, or most of them now are about 6 or 7 reputable ones. They're capable of doing about 100 megawatt and even more with partnership. If you look at the commercial striking advisory companies that have popped up because of that, if you look at the legal expertise that has been created in terms of opportunities, so all of that, it was because of initially the refit, and now that the market has opened up, mining companies are busy engaging these local IPPs to actually set up those plants for them. And this aligns well with green hydrogen that has come up, because now even generation can be done by these local IPPs. I think in Mwanja's presentation, the 30%, the modified single buyers currently that are planned, it's about 1.2 gigawatt. And that amounts to about US dollars 1.3 billion that can be invested. So if you look at that, I mean, FDIs, commercial banks, manufacturers, EPCs, those are the opportunity actually lies within that opportunity. And I know for a fact that there are few of them that are being developed now. So that 19 will definitely move up to 30 or 40 anytime soon. The mining sector again, so it goes a long way in providing cheap power because this competition will eventually enhance tariff reduction. It will force players to provide real tariffs to energy users, and it will go a long way in providing better returns for large energy users like mines and other industries. If you look at other opportunities that has also created this is, I know for a fact that NamPower is currently budgeting expansion of the transmission lines, which is going north, I think interconnecting to Angola, and south, which is the second line, 400 kV to South Africa. All of this is to actually accommodate all that is going to be produced locally and that will allow even for us to actually realize our goal of being a net exporter. And I mean, with the President always saying system, process, and institutions, setting up the market actually speaks to that, because we want to have system, process, and institutions that actually does allow market participants, allows opportunities that are created. Yeah, I think that's.
Okay. I have been given an indication that I need to wrap it up. I think my final question would be just your final thoughts on the energy sector, considering that we are an energy importer. What opportunities does that present as well?
Thank you. So, yeah, I think Ferdinand touched on it very briefly. I think so. There are a couple of things we need to emphasize. Of course, as probably one of the countries with the most liberal energy markets in Africa, we're quite blessed in the sense that it really supports a very dynamic IPP sector. So from that perspective, there's a lot of, if I can put it this way, voluntary capital that's been flowing into the country. In other words, companies that identify opportunities either to supply directly to companies in Namibia or to large energy users in Namibia, but in particular into the SAPP, but also large energy users outside of our borders. And you might think that actually that makes no sense, but the reality of it is Namibia, because of our solar endowment, we do remain one of the cheapest places in the world to actually produce renewable energy, but in particular solar. And I think when we consider this, alongside the fact that there are potentially some baseload options that are now coming near enough online, there is certainly some developers that have been considering not only baseload production that we can both use domestically but also as an export play, and consider it, really in the larger picture. When you look at the SAPP and the average daily shortage within the pool, there's a lot of opportunity there to speculatively produce energy and sell into the pool. Of course, there's that price risk, which is unpredictable. But I think that's the nature of the game, and definitely the companies that we see engaging in this game, they have the capital. So a large part of the investment is actually cash that's going into those projects, not as much lending, but certainly from the point of view that they also do understand that the upside is definitely there. So how do we become independent? I think Manpower and the Ministry of Mines and Energy certainly, as the custodians of our national energy supply, is fully aligned in terms of what the needs are. We certainly understand that, like Ferdinand indicated, that grid expansion is very important. Grid upgrades here and there will definitely take place. But from a generation point of view, our immediate priority is to secure affordable baseload. It will be very difficult for us as a country to industrialize without having some commitment around baseload, and we do believe that Manpower will of course be working in that space in the near future to also facilitate that. But I think in general, EPC opportunities, but definitely from a funding point of view and a development point of view, there's a lot going on that is not necessarily government linked. And I think that's the good news story. The good news story is that investors are confident enough, both domestic and foreign, to invest in our energy sector without necessarily having a Manpower offtake agreement or a PPA agreement or a government PPA agreement. It is definitely it's a story of the freedom to operate is there, and of course the environment lends itself to being entrepreneurial and being a dynamic operator.
Thank you. I think we can then close the panel discussions and we can pass it over for questions. Catherine, will you be fielding that? Thank you to my panelists. I hope we have sold a good story that Namibia is an attractive investment destination. I will now hand over to Catherine for fielding questions. Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. I want to go back to the value chain development and specifically in agriculture, and the argument that miners are not good value adders or farmers are not. Now I'm driving a Jeep with a big engine and I fuel Shell finished product. So there's a miner that mines crude oil and owns the whole value chain and sells finished product to the consumer. I enjoy my whiskey and I know that the best whiskies are farmed and matured on the same estate by the same entity. Again, the whole value chain is owned and localized. I know in our industry, the fishing industry, they catch fish, they package it, they can it, and they sell finished goods. So I believe we should move away from the concept that miners are not good value adders. In fact, we must force them to become value adders. And I wanted to ask the panel if you agree with that statement. It is important for agriculture because I believe, or we believe, that agriculture's potential in Namibia is, yes, creates food self-sufficiency. But on the export side, we are in the niche business sector. We sell the best beef because we have a specific farming practice that produces a commodity, a food commodity that is very much wanted. So why should we not own that whole value chain and give truth to the saying, from field to fork? That's our value chain. That's where the money is. That's the same with grapes. That's the same with dates. That's the same with blueberries, whatever. In the agricultural sector, I agree with Magula that yes, we have to produce for the local market, but to make money, export is needed. But it must be in the niche market. With the beef, we cannot compete against Brasilia. Forget it. Too big. But they are not in the niche market. They are in the bulk market. So we get for our beef premium price. The last comment, and you haven't touched on it, you call it incentivizing, I call it subsidizing. We sit in a situation where we have to grapple and take advantage of the offer that the US is making us in a partnership agreement. In the agricultural sector, I must get my head around how our agricultural products that we export to the US will remain competitive if the US gives better subsidies than we. And the possibility that how we cooperate in incentivizing these products needs to be elaborated. And I wanted the panel to take issue with that. Thank you.
Okay, I'll have a first stab at it. So I think if we take something like the beef industry, I wholeheartedly agree. If you look at what's happening on the ground at the moment, some of the investment going in to have more processed meat, have a Namibian German salami in Frankfurt on the shelf as opposed to sending the beef and then making. So there, I think there's a high level of upstream investment into it, and very excited about it. The niches that we do have, like the quality beef, as a direct export product, will always have a premium. So I think, there one can probably argue, as a country, we're extracting a good value out of our beef. I think where it does get tricky is particularly in the natural resources space in mining. On the one side, you take something like diamonds. Yes, it is possible to take it all the way through to the final product, the diamond ring, interfinis, made in Namibia. And to an extent it is happening. Where is that right level? I think it can probably be a bit further. We've got an established jewelry industry. We've got a very established cutting and sorting industry in Namibia. So there one can probably go a bit further. Where it does get tricky is where the processing or the value addition becomes massively capital intensive. If you take our copper industry or our gold industry, our total annual production is just too small to justify the cost of putting a refinery up, and then get into end state refined gold or refined copper to then start to make plated downstream products. But there, I suppose one can think and say, you know, does it mean that once something has gone across the border, it doesn't come back? You know, does it mean that if we've got copper refined, that we can't re-import copper? It's not unusual in certain countries to re-import some of your base metal end products and then do further processing. I think on the topic where whether it's incentivization or subsidization, that it is a tricky one, and there I think as smaller nations it's very hard to compete into a big country that's subsidizing and protecting its own industries. And that is just a harsh reality. If we can produce as efficient and as cheap as possible, we can't compete with the power of a US government subsidizing its own beef industry. And there I suppose it will come down to some real honest, open bilateral discussion, because there's no use to have access to a market if you cannot put something on the shelf that can compete for the wallet of the end consumer in that country. Then you might as well not have had access to that market.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Ladies and gentlemen, what is that beautiful saying that time flies when you're having fun? Is that it? Unfortunately, it seems like our fun has to come to an end. We are really pressed for time, and we would also like to respect the next session that will be held in this room. So we have to close. But before we do, I would like to thank Zoe, Ferdinand, Mr. Dempsey, very much for your insights this afternoon. The conversation will definitely continue as we network. We have an exhibition booth on the other side, downstairs, so you're more than welcome to come and engage our panel there as well. And I believe R&B has set up a beautiful spot outside as well, where we can definitely take the conversation. But as I promised earlier, we are also talking about economic collaboration. And I think what better way to walk the talk at the summit than to actually do an official signing between our Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board and our counterparts here in Botswana, the BITC. And I would like to acknowledge and welcome the CEO of BITC, Mr. Olibile. And if the officials can please help us to bring the two documents that we are signing. In the meantime, I would like to release our panel so that we can make space for the signing right here on stage. Thank you very much. Can I please invite Ms. Wanja and Mr. Olibile to the stage? If you can just take up a seat on stage. We'll bring the tables a little bit closer. Can I have some assistance on stage with the tables, please? And then you may just have a seat for now while we are sorting out the paperwork. Twikila will assist us. Is Twikila around? Our protocol? No, it's not that one. Thank you, Honorable. Okay. Do we have the golden pens to sign? Can we have 2 pens on stage, please? Thank you very much, Ms. Wanja, Mr. Olibile. If you can do us the honors. And then once they are done, we'll just ask them to say a few words on behalf of their respective institutions, organizations. Thank you very much. Shall we now seal the deal with a handshake? And a hand of applause, please. Thank you very much. May I please invite Mr. Olibile as our host to say a few words?
Articulate our profound gratitude to everyone who has contributed to making this engagement a resounding achievement. Namibia stands as a testament to the abundant promise of Africa, mirroring our shared aspiration for economic prosperity through robust partnership. Today's discourse has unveiled the wide-ranging opportunity available to this dynamic nation, one which harbors ambitions to become the beacon of sustainable energy within the continent. Furthermore, the presentation of the high-level overview of the various sectors poised for investment, including tourism, mining, agriculture, agro-processing, and logistics, serve to underscore the many opportunities waiting within Namibia's orbit. It will be amiss of me if I do not single out the keynote speaker, His Excellency Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, my teacher in so many aspects. Your Excellency, I think that you really indeed qualify as the Deputy Chief Promotion Officer for Namibia. Your articulation of our nation and what it will stand for have set a stage for our discussion this afternoon. Also, our Minister of Industrialization and Trade, thank you for your commitment to promoting business-friendly laws in Namibia and for your usual availability to engage with our investors, especially supporting our mission here in the Republic of Botswana. We wish to convey our sincere thanks to our esteemed sponsors, in particular RMB Namibia, whose support has been indispensable to find fruitful engagement. Your commitment to enhancing investment and trade relationships between the United States and African nations, specifically Namibia, is praiseworthy. On this occasion, we extend a cordial invitation to all present to consider Namibia as an open landscape for business and shared economic growth. Our nation is steadfast in its commitment to creating an attractive investment climate, contributing to sustainable development in Africa, achieving the aspiration of Agenda 2063. In conclusion, view this as an invitation to see Namibia as a future investment partner, and indeed we are. I wish to reiterate our deep thanks to all speakers and sponsors. I encourage all attendees to actively engage with the Namibian delegation for additional information and insights. Thank you for your invaluable participation and attention. We look forward to warmly welcoming you into Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we leave, I've just been requested by the media for a group photo of the speakers and our esteemed guests. All the honorable ministers, if you can please join us on stage for a speaker. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you for your participation and good afternoon.
On the west coast of southern Africa, Namibia has a population of 2.5 million people, occupying 824,292 square kilometers of breathtaking landscapes, home to abundant wildlife. Since its independence in 1990, Namibia has proven to be an African reference due to its political and economic stability, sustained by a flourishing democracy. Over the past 30 years, the country has seen the peaceful transfer of power of 3 presidencies. Namibia is a land of hospitable people with rich cultural traditions and exciting investment opportunities. Through the world-class port at Walvis Bay, the country positions itself as a logistics hub for road, rail, and sea freight, connecting neighboring countries and the broader Southern Africa development community with the rest of the world. Namibia, in reinforcing its strategic position of a logistical hub, continues to invest in infrastructural projects to facilitate easy access and movement of people and goods throughout SADC countries with a population of more than 300 million people and further access to the wider African market of 1 billion consumers through the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. The long-term economic and political strategy of growth is firmly based on ensuring openness to trade and external investment while advancing development of strategic key sectors of Namibia's economy: mining, fishing, agriculture, tourism, renewable energy. Namibia's vast renewable energy generation potential affords our generation with the opportunity to produce green hydrogen at unparalleled scales, thereby supporting our global objectives to decarbonize the planet. A prosperous and industrialized Namibia, developed by her human resources, enjoying peace, harmony, and political stability. Vision 2030. To achieve economic progression, social transformation, environmental sustainability, and good governance, the Namibian government is implementing the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2. HPP2 presents an opportunity to build on the legacy of the past 3 decades and guarantee a more secure future through resilient processes, systems, and institutions. The plan aims at implementing policy programs which enhance service delivery, private sector-led and inclusive economic growth. Namibia's diversification strategy is set to increase investment and development of the food industry, transport and logistics, metals, mining, renewable energy, chemicals and basic materials, digital and global business services, and machinery and electronics. With the vision of private sector-led growth, Namibia is open to trade and foreign direct investment and is continuously proving to be the preferred investment location in Africa. Among the reasons for this include protection of ownership rights and rule of law, sophisticated financial systems, trade agreements that facilitate regional, continental, and international market access, peace, and stability. A nation powered by nature and fueled by hope. A nation where our unity is our strength, where determination and passion endures. A nation powered by our unwavering belief in our values, our resources, and above all, our people. This is how we are shaping our future. Welcome to Namibia, the land of the brave.